Hi everyone, it's Meredith, your evolutionary astrologer, and I'm back to do part 2 of the 10 hardest aspects to have in your natal chart or in your progress chart. Now, why is this video series so important? Because I want you guys to know that your sun sign, as you're discovering by watching all the videos on my channel, really doesn't amount to too much. It is important. It might be one of the most important things in astrology, but it is not the total package, the full meal deal, and the whole entire picture of the blueprint of your soul. So when we start talking aspects, we start getting into how does your soul relate on this planet, in this lifetime, in this world. And when we look at the different aspects, we see the different parts of you dance with the other parts of you. So how does your mind and your heart work? How does your belief system work with your persona? How does your energy and your passion work? Right? So it's really important to understand aspects in astrology. And I am so excited to teach you guys everything I know. I've been an evolutionary astrologer for 23 years. I use the Placidus, tropical Placidus house system. I'm not a Vedic astrologer, so I can't answer your Vedic questions. I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen these aspects in play. So I hope you guys already saw part 1, the 10 hardest aspects in your natal and progress chart. These also are hard aspects by transit. So I want you to think about it in 3 ways, okay? Really, there's 5 ways to think about it. I told you the 3 ways in my first video, but first I want you to go get your natal chart. If you don't have one, I make gorgeous, absolutely stunning natal charts that are super easy to read, color-coded, vibrant, and I give you the aspects on your chart. And they're $10. You can go to soulnavigation.com. You can click on my shop tab, and you can go shop in my store, and you can buy your natal chart. You can also buy a natal chart, but send me a note that you want it to be your progress chart so you can see who you are today. How has your chart advanced in time today? And you want to look at your progressions because your progress chart is the chart that you're living out in this very moment. So your natal chart, your progress chart, those are the 2 ways that I want you to think about these aspects. Then I want you to think about people's charts or sun signs or other planets that sit on these aspects that I'm going to talk about in your chart, because those are people who will be triggering these growth aspects, which are challenged aspects, which are also called pain aspects. These aspects create pain. If you've got somebody who triggers one of these aspects, basically their sun sits on one side of the aspect, they are going to trigger you in your pain, and they are going to be a person who is a catalyst for growth for you. They're not really the enemy that you might feel them to be. The 4th way to look at it is I want you to start thinking about the transits. Well, for example, one hard aspect is the sun square Venus. So let's say you have your sun in Pisces and you have Venus in Sagittarius. If you have a person in your life that either sits on that Pisces point or that Sagittarius point, that person is a trigger for you. Also, by transit, if there is a planet like Uranus, Mars, Pluto, or the sun transiting either the Pisces or the Sagittarius, that square, it's going to trigger that entire square. So I want you to look at the aspects. And you can just start with baby steps, like just look at the sun and see when the sun will come around and trigger one of these negative aspects in your chart. So that's another way to look at it. Okay, so for the top 10 hardest aspects, part 2, number 1, when the sun is in challenge aspect to Neptune. This is really hard. This is when the sun is in opposition. By the way, I use an orb of 10 degrees. That 10 is really wide. So a 10 degree orb on this, you'll barely feel it. Probably won't be as prominent, but if you have this by 1 or 2 or 3 degrees or within 5 degrees, you're going to feel this loud. I want to tell you guys something. You should know your tightest aspect. The tightest aspect is the one where it is literally not even a degree away, because that has the most punch in it. So if you've got a sun at 22 degrees, let's say 22 degrees Gemini, and you have your moon at 22 degrees Aquarius, that's called a tight aspect. Yeah. So when the sun is in square or opposition to Neptune, you know, this sort of depletes the energy of the sun person. This is a woe is me. You polarize yourself. You could even be bipolar with this aspect because You will probably go through fits and bouts of woe is me, I'm a victim, the world is after me. There could be delusional paranoia around how sorrowful your life is. Your wounds are exaggerated. You might not be able to even get out of the wounding that has been done. We've all been wounded, by the way. We all have wounds. We all have hardships. It's almost like you have a hard time healing wounds when the sun is in hard aspect to Neptune. If you have this by progression later in life, maybe you got enough tools in your toolkit that when this hits, you don't feel like a victim. And if you have this by transit, which I do, I have this by transit. I'm going to have this for about another 2 years, but I don't have this natally. If it's by transit, hopefully you got enough good stuff and enough confidence and enough reality stuff down your throat that when it hits, you're not fooled and you're not tricked. But you can really be duped with this aspect. You can be tricked into Ponzi schemes. You can be tricked into marriages. You could be just completely gullible to life, and you can be a victim of people, and then you can also be full-blown narcissistic. So you can be completely delusional in your fairy tale of who you are, and so this can bring on a lot of pain. Let me give you an example of who has this. Kanye West, right? And he plays both the victim and then the king or the god. So Sun in hard aspect to Neptune is very emotional, very volatile, and it has a very hard time healing itself. It's also madly, massively creative. And there's a bright side to each one of these challenges, let me tell you that. And the whole point of these challenges is to grow you. It's not just to keep you a victim. But if you've got this aspect, it's to become familiar and fall in love with reality too, and allow your creativity to build a reality that's solid, steady, and stable. So you just don't go drifting off into the ethers, right? This is a person who's living out in the ethers. And so they really need to get grounded. So I'm hoping if you do have that aspect, leave me a comment below. Please, please, please tell your story a little bit if you don't mind. But I hope you have a lot of earth in your chart. And if you have a lot of earth in your chart, it can really counterbalance this aspect. Okay, we're going to talk about the moon again. You guys, the moon is so fragile and so sensitive. It's your love planet, that tender part in you. So when it's up against angry, volatile other planets or in harsh relationship to those tougher planets, it can really, really suffer. Number 2 would be when Uranus is conjunct the moon, square the moon, or opposing the moon. A Uranus moon person, when it's square or opposing or even conjunct, is emotionally bristly. It's like trying to hug a lightning bolt, right? There's so much electricity. It's very hard and very difficult for these people to merge. And it's kind of like freedom at all costs. It's also emotional unpredictability. So their mother usually, it doesn't always have to be, but their primary love person, caretaker, became unpredictable. Maybe they were alcoholic. And, you know, when the little kid opened up the door, they didn't know what they were going to get. Maybe their mom had to prostitute themselves and had a bunch of different men in the house. And so the kid got a message of like, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm trying to merge with pure strangers and I don't get it. It's very hard for this aspect to do loyalty, to do consistency, and to do intimacy, and to be steady, because their life as a young person in their formative years was so unstable, so unpredictable. Maybe people coming and going, in and out, but they had an unstable parent. So would you tell me if this is you, and did you struggle with it? There can be an emotional intelligence here that's quite cunning, very witty and quick on its feet, but it's usually based out of survival. And so this is extraordinarily painful. And these people, I pray they have earth in their chart as well. They've come to learn how to stabilize their emotions by having so much emotional upheaval and emotional upset, and not really being able to sit still with love and intimacy for long periods of time. Have you ever dated a person with this aspect? Moon in hard aspect to Uranus? Yeah, it tells also a story of their mother, usually their mother, that was just so unstable. And maybe it wasn't even a fault of hers. Maybe they were in abject poverty, just trying to survive life. Okay, so number 3, I would say it when Mercury is conjunct Saturn, or when Mercury is opposed or square to Saturn. I like Mercury conjunct Saturn the most out of those 3, but it's still very, very challenging. I know this one really well too, but the person is going to seem, especially in the early part of their lives, extraordinarily shy. Maybe they're mute. Maybe they don't even want to be held or talked to as a baby. They can't make eye contact. Their communication is completely suppressed and oppressed. Their self-expression is inward, and it is shut down, and it is stifled, stunted, blunted. They are not able to find their unbridled enthusiasm unless they are extraordinarily comfortable. This is a person who does not want to ruffle feathers, say the wrong things, very shy to speak or to express what they really want. They'll just kind of quietly go with the flow, but then they will have a silent resistance. They will come later in life, and if you have this by progression, you might come in just as an authority figure. And this person usually thinks that they are right. They have like a staunch rigidness around their feelings, I should say around their thoughts. And oftentimes they put themselves in this sort of stoic authoritarianism, and they're bossy, and they really, really think it's my way or the highway. It's the way I think, and the way I believe is the right way. And so they can be very off-putting with this level of masculine bossiness that can be obnoxious. They're hard to be around because they're not flexible usually. Now, if you have this in a mutable sign, it's going to be a little bit easier to tolerate than if you have this in a fixed sign or a cardinal sign. Okay, number 4 might surprise you, and it's quite a lot of people. Number 4 is the full moon aspect in your chart. If you were born on a full moon, you were born into some situation that had loss attached to it. It had a goodbye attached to it. Maybe you had a difficult birth. Maybe you almost died. Maybe you weren't able to be held by your mother. You felt isolated in the birthing process. Maybe you were taken to the natal unit. Your parents got divorced shortly after. Maybe you were born to only one parent, right? Maybe you didn't get the feeling that you were born into a happy household. Maybe there was suffering inside your household that you couldn't fully understand, but you took on the energetic vibration. Maybe you were given up for adoption. Maybe you were a surrogate. Maybe your parent was a surrogate, right? So the full moon aspect, whenever I see somebody who has a full moon, I just know that they do have a tender heart, even if they're unaware of it. A lot of people aren't even aware of their early roots, their early beginnings. But the full moon does tell me that they were born into a little bit of a sad story. And they're here to come to understand their emotional depths and to learn positivity and optimism and basically love, and mostly self-love, how to love and nurture oneself. If you have a full moon by transit, basically, if you've got a Libra moon, well, when the sun is in Aries directly opposing your moon, that's a full moon aspect, right? That's an important time for you because you will feel that sense of loss. I like to do advanced astrology, and I know a lot of the people that watch my channel can handle this, but listen to this. When the moon opposes your sun, and that's going to happen once a month, you also have a full moon aspect, right? By transit. So if you've got a Libra sun, whenever the moon is in Aries, it doesn't matter if the Aries moon is a full moon in the chart. It's just whenever the moon is in Aries, it's in a full moon aspect to your sun. Even if it's not a full moon up in the sky, it's in aspect as a full moon because you have a Libra sun. So you're going to feel that loss, that melancholy once a month. You want to know what those days are. How you can do that is you can get an ephemeris and you can track the moon. Or you can get a reading at soulnavigation.com. I hired a team of brilliant readers to help me with the volume of clientele that I have because it's just become so big. And these readers are amazing. So check them out. Just go to SOUL navigation.com, click on book a reading, and go get an astrology reading with Suzzy or Connie Joe or Stacy. And then you can get a psychic reading, a tarot reading, an angelic Reiki healing reading, a mediumship reading, or a past life regression reading with Kira. She's studying astrology right now, and she does know some, but she's really brilliant at those other types of readings. And so if you want to take a look at the aspects in your chart and the theme in your chart, get a reading with somebody at Soul Navigation on my team. They are so mind-blowing. Number 5, when Neptune conjuncts the sun. Now, earlier I talked about when Neptune was in hard aspect to the sun, but I want to say Neptune conjunct the sun, it's really owed a deeper explanation, and this is really a hard aspect, especially if it's combust. So if it's combust, it means it's exact. It is like half a degree away. And so if you have this at the same exact degree, this is really tough. This person is going to feel like the world is just too harsh and too real. They can't handle the hardcore vibration that's so earthbound. This aspect is really a destiny aspect, because I feel like this can be a Mother Teresa or a Jesus aspect, because it can have a lot of altruism, but usually these people are kind of used and abused, and they have a lot of energy vampires in their life because they're overgivers, overlove, overgive, and they're out of touch with reality, and they can be very much a lost soul, and they can feel alienated from others. They can feel like they don't fit in, and it's because they're too sensitive. This person can be really prone to drinking too much alcohol or drugs and escapism as well, but it can be quite overwhelming when it's conjunct, because Neptune can just be so overpowering that you literally feel like you're lost at sea with no raft and you have to swim to shore, and you feel like that all the time. So if you have this aspect, tell me what beautiful, this is also the poet's soul though. This aspect is that of poetry, and it can be quite gorgeous, but you're going to need to get really serious earthbound tools to navigate this and to manage it. So if Neptune is crossing your sun by transit, this is a period in time where you can be massively creative, but you can also feel so lost, right? So remember to look at this natally through your progressed chart and through your transit chart. And then does somebody put their Neptune on your sun, or do you put your sun on somebody's Neptune, or do they put their sun on your Neptune? Because that can be a relationship that's completely delusional and very hard to concretely build. You might have an energetic connection with that person, a soulful connection, but it doesn't manifest in the concrete world, and it can be very painful. So look at it in those 4 different ways. Okay, number 6. And I know this content is a tiny bit heavier. If you want to have really fun and funny content where I just laugh my butt off and it is so much fun, please, please, please go watch my money series. My money series has the best editing. It is so fun. It was so fun and funny to do. And it's hilarious. I don't know why I was on a comedy streak, but it was just really funny. But these aspects are so important to know about, because this is how you're going to grow. These are like your growth lessons. No pain, no gain. That's what this is. I was thinking about, gosh, show me an Olympian, a truly great person who's like mastered their own physicality. Have they ever lived without pain in their life? I don't know. I don't think so. Pain comes with great reward if you're willing to work with it. But these aspects need to be worked with. You can't just let them float around, because they'll do damage if you do. Yeah, they're like gremlins. You have to manage these little gremlins, people. Okay, so number 6. If you don't have any water in your chart, that is painful. When you have an elemental lack or a void, meaning you have no planets in that particular element, it can be hard. But I'll tell you that having no water creates a feeling of being devoid of emotion or empathy or compassion. And it's not any fault of yours, but it's like you're not comfortable going deep within your heart. Love might make you feel uncomfortable. Mushy emotions might make you feel uncomfortable. You know, emotions don't have an IQ. They're not intellectual. They're not rational. They just are so. And so you might be out of touch with, what do I feel? And you might be more in touch with, what should I feel? Okay, I'll be that thing that I should feel, rather than just having organic, natural feelings. You might rationalize what feeling you're supposed to have. Oh, you know, my grandma just died, God forbid. I should feel upset, so I will be upset. And it's sort of like an actor playing out a role, until you learn that having emotions is okay and it doesn't make you weak. And it's actually, you know, I said this in one of my other videos, where true intimacy is being willing to be vulnerable. And when you don't have any water, it is very hard to be vulnerable. And so intimacy may not come easily for you, and that's painful. So if this is you, please leave me a comment and let me know. How have you coped with this? Have you turned to humor? Have you turned to academics? Have you turned to intellect? Have you turned to science? Have you turned into pure rationalization, right? How have you dealt with this? By the way, if you guys want to know your aspects and how they play out and work in your chart, you should get my advanced Astro package. It's called the Gold package on the thumbnail, and it is so good. I give you your progressed chart, your progressed report, so you'll see all your aspects by progression, and I give you a second really deep astrology report that shows you all of your chart rulers for each house, and it shows you your natal chart through a much different lens than my starter package. So if you haven't already gotten the starter package, you could get that one too. It's fantastic. And you'll get your natal chart, and then you'll get your deep dive natal report. But this package gives you your progressed report and a whole nother report that takes you through the rulers of each house in your chart, and you'll get to learn about all your aspects. So you'll get to see which one of these hard aspects you have, and it's just amazing. I call it the gold package because it is like gold. I mean, invest in your soul. You'll just learn so much about yourself. Like, why do you feel what you feel? Why do you behave the way you feel? Why do you make the decisions? Why do you sabotage yourself? Why do you prostitute yourself? Why do you give yourself away? Why are you an energy vampire? Why are you meek? Why are you mild? Why, right? And it will explain it to you in a way that will give you great compassion for yourself. Number 7, when Venus is either conjunct, square, or in opposition to Saturn. And this person might think that they or may have learned from childhood, or their story, their childhood story may have told them that they are not worthy of love, that they are not perfect or good enough to be loved. And this is a person who is highly critical about themselves. I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I have a pimple, whatever. But this is very self-critical around the aesthetics. Like, they don't like their aesthetics. They usually have a negative image of themselves for a while, or they were told that or taught that, or they feel like they have to alter their body, alter their look. They have to work extra hard to be pretty or to be attractive. Also, these people have had an early childhood where they lost self-confidence or self-worth due to feeling like their father, probably, this is probably a daddy issue, either didn't love them, didn't want them, wasn't their favorite, didn't pay attention to them, and they had to work for love. They had to be, presentable, respectable, pretty, smart for love. And it probably caused some psychological damage inside of these people. But these people are here to learn self-acceptance, learn that they are good enough. They don't need to be more beautiful than what they are. They are perfect in their own way. They don't have to work for love. Self-acceptance, growing self-worth, and becoming one's own authority is critical to heal this particular wound. And I know this one really well. Yes. Okay, number 8. If you have Mars in the 12th house, this is a very hard aspect. Mars does not like to just be swimming in the sea, going nowhere, just going in a circle, dog paddling. Mars wants to be assertive, and in this placement, it's very hard to be assertive. This is a passive placement. So Mars can get very frustrated, and there can be a lot of passive aggression. It isn't their fault, but they might not know what to do with their energy. They might feel like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. This is very artistic, though, and this could be a phenomenal artist, but you could be the starving artist here, unless you have a lot of support with your Mars. And so this also can be love affairs. Either you're cheated on or you are the cheater. It's hard for you to be very upfront and honest with your desire, with your passion, with your ambition, with what you want. It's a very selfless placement, so you can become a doormat if you're not careful. So you're here to really understand the power that lives inside of you and learn assertiveness. And if you have this by progression, but you weren't born with this natally, it might be an interesting time in your life, because you might have needed to go deep within your own internal sanctuary to become sort of a priest or a spiritualist, or recharge your batteries, a monk, if you will, or to develop a divine relationship with spirit or God. So it's interesting by progression, because it's not quite as painful. It's a period in your life when you need to do some deep introspection, especially if you were born with Mars not in the 12th house. So number 9, if you're born with Pluto on the ascendant by 5 degrees, no more than 5 degrees, 6, 7, 8 doesn't count. It's not on the ascendant, and 5 is pushing it. I would look at 5, but I wouldn't necessarily say 5 is super strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's pretty strong, either in the 12th or the 1st house. They'll show up a little bit differently. In the 1st house, it's going to be more bold. In the 12th house, it's going to be more psychological. So in the 1st house, if Pluto is on the ascendant in the 1st house, it might show up as an actual physical manifestation of a wound. If it's in the 12th house, it's a psychological wound that you're dealing with more. This is somebody who dances with death, divorce, and a great degree of loss. I would be very surprised if you are a Pluto rising and you haven't been divorced, or if you haven't experienced severe death in some way. This is a person who was either bullied or is the bully, somebody who was picked on, or somebody who has too much power and strength. But this is somebody who dances or has danced with death in ways they didn't want to. And they were exposed to the gory, hard stuff, a victim of divorce, if you will, a victim of death, a victim of being bullied, a victim of power too early. And so they're here to claim their rightful power, but not take too much of it, and or not allow others to dominate them. So having a healthy relationship with power, both external power and internal power. Are you guys a super supporter yet? I hope so. I've gotten so many new super supporters, and I just wanted to say welcome. I hope that you love your private VIP videos. You'll get invitations to my next VIP parties where you will learn so much. I share even deeper tips and techniques on how to make predictions and how to read your chart. I just love my super supporters. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please don't just take your perks and run away, because we pour our heart and soul into our super supporters. I want you to be happy. You get so many free things. Click the link below and you can see all the perks that you get. And we work really hard to put them together for you. So you really help my small business thrive. You keep our lights on and you allow me to do more videos like this and the other ones that I do for you guys. Anyways, I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you, and also become a subscriber. I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers and I'm almost there. So please like and share and push this video out to anybody who you think might benefit. I'd be so grateful. And number 10, we have to talk about Chiron. Oh boy, when Chiron conjuncts the sun, the north node, the ascendant, or the midheaven, that's at the top of your chart between the 9th and 10th house. This is painful, and this is living with a pain, learning to live with a very private pain. But when it's in one of those positions, this pain is revealed and exposed and seen. Who wants to have their pain on display, right? These are one of the most hardest places to have Chiron. When Chiron is on the sun, conjunct the sun, it's like you're enmeshed with your pain and you are here to heal that very pain. But that's not always simple. When it's on the MC, your pain is public. When it's on the ascendant, your pain is also seen because you wear it out loud. And when Chiron's attached to the north node, that's where you're headed. And so you probably will learn through some sort of pain and healing. People are going to see your pain. They may exploit your pain. And you may even see that this brings up people bullying you for your pain. If you've seen somebody who's been burned, on the face or hands, and then getting bullied or being seen as unattractive. I mean, this can be very, very, very hard. These people can feel the world has punished them for the pains and sufferings they have gone through, but they're supposed to learn through that and grow and become probably a more inspiring force of healing and share that healing with the world. If you're not going to do the honest, authentic work around your pain and around your suffering, and if you're just going to pretend that it's not there and live in denial of your pain, you make it worse. Like when Mike Tyson's little daughter tripped on the treadmill and strangled herself with the cord and died, or whatever that was. I can't remember all the details. It was so horrible. That got him vulnerable. That got him so real for one of the first times in his life. And then when he went to prison, he really changed his life and got humbled. But before, he just had this pent up anger, probably rightly so. But I don't know what his roots in childhood was like. I don't know really anything about him. But what I'm saying is that I think that his disdain and his ugliness, if you will, was pain covered up. And that's what Chiron can do. Chiron on the ascendant, Chiron on the midheaven, Chiron on the sun. It can pretend and be a tough guy and be, like a false strength, when really the person is just screaming in suffering on the inside. So these people are here to get real. Yes. Well, this is my part 2, 10 hardest aspects. I might do a part 3 because there's a lot of aspects that bring in pain and suffering and ultimately growth. And what is the whole entire purpose of being a human? To become eventually enlightened. And we cannot become enlightened like Siddhartha unless we have experienced some sort of pain or challenge or suffering, if you will, and have learned the remedies in how to heal those wounds, rise above those wounds, and help others heal those wounds too. We have to share our gifts with others and share our love. I believe love is the answer to all good things, and love wins. And so take these aspects, grow compassion, learn about them, learn more deeply about them in your own chart, so you can learn the different pieces and the different facets of yourself and where you need to do your spiritual development and work. where your soul needs a little extra vitamin. And ultimately, at the end of the day, be kind to yourself, be good to yourself, love yourself. I love your comments. Thank you for sharing. Please, please do share if you have one of these aspects. Share your story with others so they can learn too. I love having you here. I love teaching you. Take good care from my home here in Seattle to you out there in the world. I wish you the very, very best.